A lot of times we're sitting here sort of working on our own, looking at our business, thinking we can see everything, but we really can't see the gaps and the mistakes that are missing.
You're listening to Thrive by Design, business, marketing, and lifestyle strategies for your jewelry brand to flourish and thrive. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Thrive by Design podcast, episode number 81. Hey there, it's Tracy Matthews, your host today, and I am the Chief Visionary Officer over at Flourish and Thrive. I am super stoked to be here today. I haven't recorded a podcast in a while because I batched a bunch in the beginning. I usually record a bunch at one time, and I'm back behind the microphone, which is super duper fun. And we just wrapped up our jewelry brand makeover bootcamp a couple weeks ago. We're just finishing it up right now as I'm recording this. And man, what a whirlwind and a blast. And the cool thing about when we do like a bootcamp and a launch like that, that's super fun, is we get a lot of different questions coming up. So I'm so inspired to be recording all these different podcast ideas that came up through bootcamp because I want to be able to answer your questions in depth. So one of the things that came up often is, where do I invest my money when I'm trying to grow my jewelry business? Because I think a lot of people really don't know. So I wanted to cover that topic today, and I'm really excited to share with you some of my experience, some of the mistakes that I made early on in business and later on in business, or hopefully I didn't make them later, but that I learned from later on. And to share with you in hindsight, some of the things that I would have invested in much more earlier on, and to share with you sort of how I invest in my business these days to grow both of them. So I'm really thrilled to dive into today's episode. So before I jump in, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I was in the beginning when I first started my business. And as I mentioned, I made a lot of mistakes, and if you can't learn from your mistakes, then there's no growth. So I've been one of those people who's been really focused on trying to learn from my mistakes. I used to spend all of my money on bright, shiny objects or supplies and materials, thinking that that was investing in my company properly. What I failed to realize is that I was being short-sighted, because at the end of the day, what ended up happening was I was stuck with all this inventory and not sales to cover the inventory, which sort of tied up my cash flow. And I wasn't really, I didn't really know that much about how to not only move that inventory, but how to grow my business. And I should have probably allocated some of those funds to other things, which I want to talk to you about today. And it wasn't until my business actually failed until I realized I was spending a lot of my earnings really frivolously in the wrong place and on the wrong things. So I'm excited to kind of walk you through this process. And I've talked about this a lot over the course of the past 5 or so years that Flourish and Thrive Academy has been around. But I think one of the things that is really important to remember is that, sometimes we are faced with challenges in our lives that really move the needle and change things. And for me, one of those things that I never really saw or was really clear on was that I was making a huge mistake by not investing in my business, in the sense that I wasn't hiring on people or consultants or learning enough about business in the bigger, broader sense of things, so that I could avoid some of the costly mistakes that I made down the road. And case in point, about 3 years in business, I think I had the opportunity to hire some consultants who were going to help me do some planning and also take a look inside my business to help me with the numbers and stuff like that. Now, the fee to hire those consultants, I can't even remember exactly who that person was at that time anymore, was probably about $500 a month. And this was back in the late 90s or early 2000s. And for me at that time, that was a huge investment. But what I didn't realize, and I kept just thinking about the money that I was paying up front, not the return on investment that I was going to get after I learned and was able to see the gaps in my business and all the things that I couldn't see. Because the fact of the matter is, Robin says this all the time, is you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of times we're sitting here sort of working on our own, looking at our business, thinking we can see everything, but we really can't see the gaps and the mistakes that are missing. So that was a big mistake back then, that I didn't hire on that consultant. And I had opportunities many times over, the next 4 or 5 years to do that. And it wasn't until my business was literally in dire straits that Phil Clements from Cathedral Consulting came along with his team and helped me sort of rebuild my business. And then as I decided to close Tracy Matthews Designs. And when I restarted, I kept my eyes wide open for signs and for things that were really going to be helpful for me to grow my business. And one of the first things that came into my inbox was an email from my friend Kate about a woman named Forleo, who was running a program called B School. So I signed up for some free challenge that they had. I think it was called the Instant Moneymaker campaign. I followed all the steps, got results within 24 hours. It was sort of like a do this now and see what you get. I ended up selling out almost all the packages that I offered. I was teaching yoga at the time and also selling jewelry. So I did a test for my jewelry business and my yoga practice. And I ended up having great results for both companies. So I heard about Marie's B School program and finally decided to sign up on the last day for B School. And it was a really amazing opportunity. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never done any sort of online training before. I thought it was kind of weird. I was dating this guy at the time who thought I was crazy for investing $1,500 in an online course to teach me how to grow a business online. But the fact of the matter is I knew that when I was restarting my custom jewelry business, that I was going to be reaching clients on the internet, whether it be my previous customers who were referring me other people to my website or new people finding me. I knew somehow in the fabric of my being that this online presence and learning online marketing was going to be the thing that was going to help me move the needle and really grow my jewelry business to that next level that I'd already dreamed of. So I signed up for the program and had no idea what I was in for. As I mentioned, my boyfriend at the time thought I was nuts for doing it. And he even said a couple times like, oh, this is kind of cheesy and funny because they were like teaching in a very like off the cuff style, which was enjoyable and not boring. So I learned a ton and implemented it into my business right away. And I saw results really quickly. And I ended up, I'd had this wholesale jewelry business for many, many years. And I am a good salesperson. So I ended up, building that business to close to $1 million in sales. And, it kept growing and growing over time, which was wonderful. But when it crashed hard. And I knew I wanted something more sustainable. And one of the things that I really noticed about that business is that the cost to run that business was very high. And so my profits were pretty low every year. On the good months, I was always generating a little bit of extra profit, but I would save all that cash flow for the months when, our expenses were more than we were actually bringing in, which would happen quite frequently in like the midsummer months and at certain times during the spring. So it was always this sort of cash flow gamble. I wanted something that was a lot more sustainable, and I knew I could do that by getting more business online. So I ramped up my business really quickly in about 18 months and ended up having my first $30,000 in profits a month. And that was pretty insane for me because at the time I was financially rebuilding. I was like on the way to, I think I'd already filed for bankruptcy. I can't exactly remember the exact date, but it was right around that time that I had filed for bankruptcy. And I was going through a really hard time financially. I didn't have any money. So having that much in profits in 1 month was just like insane for me. And if you guys listened to my interview with Marie last week, you got to hear a little bit of like my story with Marie, but mostly like some of like her brilliance and insight, which I think is really, really incredible. So what was thought by, people around me as a really crazy investment in my business was actually one of the best things that I ever did because it really helped me grow quickly and see all the things that I couldn't see before. And it was a really amazing experience. And I learned so much about email newsletter marketing, about building a website for conversion, about copywriting and messaging and customer relationships and really growing a fan base. And that changed everything for me. And now I have a consistent stream of clients that constantly come to my website and fill out my form every single week. In fact, I responded to 3 new ones today, which is pretty crazy. Lots of people getting engaged in the spring, which is awesome. And it's an amazing opportunity for me to continue to grow and build a business that I don't work at that hard, that has multiple 6 figures, all because I learned how to leverage the power of online and because I invested in my business in the right way. So I wanted to share with you a little bit more how to do that today. And last week I shared with you a free training series that Marie Forleo is doing. I'm going to post the link in the show notes for that same free training, but Marie is also opening up her B School program in a couple of days. So you make sure that you take a look out for that. I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about that, but I highly recommend that if you are someone who wants to improve their online presence and start making more sales online, this is one of the premier programs in order to do that. And Marie teaches in a really amazing step-by-step way to help you learn the materials quickly and be able to implement them and put them, into action. And quite frankly, the idea for Flourish and Thrive Academy probably wouldn't have come if I had not taken B School. And I probably wouldn't be the same kind of teacher had I not ever found out about Marie, I probably would still be teaching yoga, quite frankly. But if I hadn't found out about Marie, one of the things that I really loved about her teaching style was that it was so approachable. So as a teacher and a mentor to the jewelry community, hopefully you guys think of me that way, I don't know. It's been really awesome to be able to learn from one of the best how to, present yourself and your brand out in a way that really resonates and is easy to learn important information to grow your business. So without further ado, I want to dive into the content. But if you're seriously considering trying to reach more people online, consider taking B School this year. It is an investment, I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the day, what if you could ROI that investment and, triple your returns? The long-term impact of taking that course has been really, really incredible for me. And, my sales are really consistently every single year, multiple six figures, which I'm so grateful for because I don't work on my jewelry business that hard anymore. So let's talk a little bit more about things that you should invest your money on, or where you should invest your money in order to grow your jewelry business when you start turning a little bit of a profit, which I think this is important. The first thing is yourself. So my consultant, Phil, I talked about Phil a little bit in the pre-talk for this episode. Phil was really amazing to me. And there was many times in my business when I was not paying myself, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate. I know that, we're trying to make things go forward and we're a little short on cash at the end of the month and we don't end up paying ourselves. Now, there is a fine balance between overpaying ourselves and not paying ourselves anything at all. So we want to try to find that middle ground. But the most important person to invest in is yourself. And Phil explained it to me this way. If you're not supporting yourself and you don't feel like you can even put food on the table and go do a couple of nice things for yourself every single month, how can you show up for your business and grow it? You're going to always be in a state of fear or panic because you're scrambling or scraping by day to day for, a little cash. So it's really important to be able to pay yourself a reasonable salary so that you can show up as the chief visionary officer of your business and continue to grow it. I know that my friend Justin Crane, who was on episode in December, talks a lot about entrepreneurs sometimes paying themselves too much. I do agree with him to a certain respect because what he believes in is that you should be investing money back into your business if you really want to grow it. And you end up taking profits later on instead of just a paycheck. So it's finding sort of that balance between what you're consistently paying yourself and what you're making in profits, because you want your business to be profitable. So the next thing that I think is really, really important to invest in that people overlook is not going to be tools or supplies and materials. It's professional development. I think this is really, really important. Professional development can come in the form of masterminds, can come in the form of courses, can come in the form of books or listening to podcasts. There's a lot of professional development that you can do actually for free. Obviously you're listening to the Thrive by Design podcast right now, and that would be considered professional development, right? But there's also things that you can do to get more advanced. Like we offer a lot of courses here. Like for instance, we just opened enrollment for Laying the Foundation course and it's already started. And we're in, I think, the third week by now, maybe the third or fourth week. And, that's our signature course every year. We have, since we started the company, launched it every single January, with the exception of the first year that we launched in September because we had started the business in July. And every year we launch Laying the Foundation. We also have other courses over here like Multiply Your Profits, which is our business course. We have our Mastering Wholesale course. We have our Mastermind Intensive, our Dream Client course, and also our Diamond Insiders community, which we are in the process of doing a complete rebrand for and a revamp because that is going to be sort of the new wave of Flourish and Thrive, this amazing community that we're building over there at the Diamond Insiders, which will be getting a new name soon, hopefully. We're very excited about it. So these types of things, investing in courses like this or things like Marie Forleo's B School, really important to move the needle in your jewelry business. And one final note on trainings like this, one of the things that I always had wished that I'd had was access to resources like this when I was just starting out and growing my business. And there was just nothing around that was very specific to the jewelry industry. So Robin and I are always trying to be on the cutting edge, to grow, to bring in experts to help you grow. So hopefully we've done that. And of course, if there's anything that you would like to see, we'd love for you to comment on this blog post where we're hosting the podcast so that we can help serve you better. It always helps us. Or you can just shoot us an email over at support@flourishthriveacademy.com. So other things, important things. So I mentioned courses, professional development, masterminds. I invest every year in a high-level mastermind. I'm considering joining a second one as well because I am obsessed with learning. And for me, it's really helped me become a better leader. It's helped me move my businesses in directions that I never would have thought of if I was just doing this on my own. So being around a community of like-minded people, some who are maybe at a different level than you, even if it's a little bit lower than you or higher than you, you always are going to learn so much about that. And that was one of the reasons why I was so passionate about starting a mastermind for Flourish and Thrive, because I knew that so much would be able to happen throughout the year if we got, anywhere from 10 to 25 people together to mastermind together. It's a really amazing bond that is built between the designers. And it's also an amazing bond and growth cycle that happens when minds come together to work towards a problem or common goal, or, trying to work through issues to grow your business and get it to the next level. And it also becomes this sort of cheerleading thing where we're all raising each other up and helping each other to be the best that they can be. And then, I wanted to share a couple, books are always a great way to learn. I wanted to share a couple of books that are some of my favorites that I think everyone in this community should read. And there are tons more. I was looking at my bookshelf trying to find more. I should have probably looked in my Kindle, which is probably a better place to look. But the most important book that I think anyone who is starting their own business especially should read is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. There's a lot of controversy about whether or not people think it's relevant or not, and, this new way of doing business. But at the end of the day, the principles that Michael runs through in that book are so pivotal and important to thinking about yourself as the chief visionary officer of your business, or CEO, as Michael says, instead of a technician or, getting out of maker mindset and stuff like that. Even if you are making all your jewelry, you still need to think of yourself as the chief visionary officer of your company. So that book changed my life. I didn't read it until way too late in business. Highly recommend that you all read it. It's such a great book. I would not be here today supporting you if I had not read that book and really grasp the concepts. It's still daily work for me. I'm not very good at setting up systems or creating org charts, but at the end of the day, it's just understanding what it takes is the start, and all of us can do that. The next two books are by the same author. They're by Gino Wickman. I love them so much, and I've read them a couple times over the year. I read them and listened to them on audiobook because that's how important they were for me. The first is Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. And this book covers the roles of successful businesses and the importance of a visionary and the integrator role in growing a business to the next level of success. And the book Traction by Gino Wickman is all about running powerful companies with strong leadership and getting things done, so that you're not spending all your time on all this stuff and nothing actually moves forward. So really great books. Pick those up. So the third thing that I want to talk about investing in, which I think is really, really important, are getting the right people in the right seats on your team. Now, I know a lot of you are solopreneurs or just single jewelry makers doing it all on your own. That's cool, but there might come a day when you want to grow your business and you might need to hire some team members. And to start this process, I think it's really important to understand what it is that you're really, really good at and what it is that you are not good at, because what you want to do is fill the space or the gaps on what you're not good at. And for me, a lot of that understanding came through self-assessment. I know when I had Tracy Matthews Designs, managing people was the bane of my existence. I hated it so much. And I wasn't a good manager because I didn't understand how to be a leader. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't understand how to inspire people to do their job without asking a million questions. I was terrible at it back then because I didn't know how to lead. I hired people that I wanted to be friends with, not people that were actually going to be good at the jobs that they were hired for. And it was a huge lesson for me. It was part of the reason why I actually closed my business, because I was so tired of managing people and managing a business. And a lot of that came about because I really set it up the wrong way. Back to The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Read it. Really important book. So understanding what you're really good at and not good at is very important. And you could do that in a couple different ways. You can sit down in a brainstorming session and write out a bunch of lists and talk about write down what you love to do and what you hate to do in business. And that's a good start. The next thing that I love was taking some personality assessments to understand what you're really good at. Things like the Enneagram or the Myers-Briggs test or the Strengths Finders test. And my favorite is the Colby. This is the one where you can really understand where your strong suits are in business. Now, when I took this test, I was blown away because I always felt like I was crazy. I'm like, why can't anyone move at my speed? Like literally, I could not understand why no one can move at my speed. And I'm like, it's not that hard, people. But I realized after taking the Colby, it's a 4-part scale. What is it? It's follow through, fact finder, implementation, and quick start. So I'm a 10 on quick start, but I'm a 2 or a 3 in everything else. So I'm really low on fact finder, implementation, and follow through. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't do those things. It's just that I have a low threshold for information when it comes to those things. So I'm always moving things forward really, really quickly because that quick start thing is really targeting me forward. And so in order for me to hire the right kinds of people and invest in people that are going to help me grow my business, I need to hire people who fill in my gaps. So hiring people who are higher on fact finder, higher on implementation, maybe a little bit lower on quick start or in the middle on quick start so that they're still moving at a reasonable speed is going to really help me, and someone who's a better implementer than me. So these are all things, these assessments are really important. And I've taken all these assessments. I love them all. I think an eight on the Enneagram with a 9 wing, I think, or a 7 wing. I can't remember exactly, but 8 is my primary number on the Enneagram. I'm an ENFP in the Myers-Briggs. I can't exactly remember my strengths finder off the bat, but these sort of personality assessments can really help you understand the types of people that you need to hire. So you want to fill in the gaps for what you're not good at, what you don't like to do, and what really is not your strong suit. So this is really important. And investing in the right team members can really help you grow and get to the next level. And you might be wondering what to hire first. I would start with some of the really basic stuff that you don't necessarily need to be doing yourself, and especially the basic stuff that you don't like to do. So things like administrative tasks, filing, maybe some social media posting, like repetitive tasks that don't necessarily require your expertise. Those are the first things that you want to hire out. The next thing you might want to invest in as you're growing your jewelry business is advertising and marketing expenses. So this could also come in the form of a team member, someone who's a little bit more on the marketing and sales and side, who can help run that division of your company. And I just want to mention that there are a lot of free ways that you can market your company super easily. I mean, social media is for the most part free right now. Your email list is free if you're capturing those leads. You can always be marketing to previous customers, which is really, really important. But you might also want to dive into paid advertising or paid marketing at some point. And this is not a bad idea because there's a lot of ways that you can leverage the people who are already on your list or in your radar or in your sphere and use paid advertising to get them to actually take the next step to buy. So this is like a huge topic and there's so much to talk about here, but some of the things you might want to do are retarget people who are already on your email list or who have landed on your website or who have clicked on emails to get them back to your website to buy a product that they were actually looking at. You might want to also invest in something like promoted pins. Pinterest is a great way to get traffic to your website. So using rich pins and promoted pins and paid advertising pins are a great way to, get your pin in front of more people and get people clicking on that pin. Obviously there's a lot of free ways that you can use Pinterest too. A really powerful way is to get your pins posted on an influential pinner's board. And I know a lot of people get a ton of traffic from Pinterest, not something that should be brushed to the side. And the next thing is to use Facebook. Obviously, Facebook ads and boosted posts can be really useful. And now with the use of Facebook Live, you can use that viral video content, let it get some organic reach for a while, and then boost that to improve the algorithm on your page and to improve your reach and get people actually back to your website, into your business, and buying. All right, so I don't want to go too in-depth on the advertising piece because I feel like this is an episode in and of itself, which I think I need to get someone on really soon for that. So the next thing that I think is really important to invest in, and this could be one of the most important things that you do down the road when your business is ready, is to hire the right support, consultants, and business professionals. So you're going to probably hire these people at different phases in your business. Maybe a consultant comes, midstream, but certain types of business professionals might come a little bit earlier on. Like I think outsourcing your bookkeeping is a great idea as you start in business. And then hiring a really good CPA and having an attorney or outsourcing some production someday if you really want to scale and grow and you can't handle keeping up with the repetitive task of continuing to grow your business. And then, of course, you've heard me talk about it all the time. Consultants are a great way to get outside eyes on your business to help fill the gaps for things that you can't see. So I know that this is a lot of information. One of the things that I remember, and one of the really founding reasons why I wanted to start Flourish and Thrive Academy was because this business stuff, especially for artistic people, and especially understanding where to invest in your business. I think a lot of us just want to go straight to buying materials and supplies because that's what we know. That's what we're drawn to. That's what we like because we're artists, right? But at the end of the day, investing in the more businessy side of things is really, really important. In fact, when I started Flourish and Thrive Academy, the number one thing that I wanted to do was to launch our course, Multiply Your Profits. Multiply Your Profits is our business course as opposed to laying the foundation, which is more the foundational marketing and sales side of the puzzle. But I wanted to start the business course because it was something that was such a huge gap in my business personally for so long. And I felt like when I learned all this stuff, when Phil brought this to my eyes, when I was working with Phil, my consultant back in the day, and when I started learning all the back end things that needed to happen that I hadn't been doing for many years, I realized that the destiny of my first business might have been very different. And so Multiply Your Profits sort of came out of that. But I realized that a lot of people weren't going to probably go straight into Multiply Your Profits because they hadn't done the foundational work yet to get to that next phase. And you really do kind of need that foundational work, whether or not you learn it from us or you've done it on your own in order to approach, setting up some of the more businessy side of things. So if you're interested in learning more about Multiply Your Profits, it's not something that's closed for enrollment. It's always open. You can check it out. We'll have it posted on the episode page, so you can check it out on the show notes over there. All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening to the podcast today. And I hope this clears up maybe some confusion on some of the things that you should be investing in for your business. I know that it can become overwhelming and we're always looking at our checking account or our savings account or our business account, hopefully, and thinking to ourselves like, oh, well, I have this little extra money or I don't this month. What do I invest in? But I highly recommend you do one thing sort of on a final note. Think about how much you can set aside every month or try to commit to a number that you can set aside every month and start saving for professional development. One of the core values that I have over at Flourish and Thrive is to always be learning because I think continuing education is really important. We're a continuing education company. We teach people business skills, but at the same time, like my team cannot get lazy. I make them learn. So I pay for courses for them every single month. We invest in new trainings for them and I'm always taking courses. In fact, I'm committed right now. I'm heading to LA in a couple weeks to go take a speaking workshop. I want to get rid of all the ums and likes that I say all the time and be able to deliver a little bit more powerfully. So that's something that I'm really working on this year. Robin and I are speaking at a couple conferences and we have our Flourish and Thrive live event coming up in September, which we're very excited about. So I want to make sure that I'm really being the most powerful speaker that I can be. So I invested about $4,000 in a program to learn how to speak better. I'm going to take the workshop in March in a couple months. So I just want you to know that you are not alone. I'm always investing in myself too. And I think that's why I've become more of a success in business than I already was, even just a couple years ago. And my business success continues to grow because I keep investing in myself and my growth and my business. So I just wanted to leave you with those final words. Set some money aside. Start to budget. As your business grows, maybe expand that budget because that education and where you're investing the money to help grow is really the thing that's going to get you to the next step and the next phase. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening today. I mentioned so many things in today's episode. So we'll list all of those things in the show notes over at flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 81. And on a final note, I just want to mention this. If you are interested in growing your online business, I know Marie Forleo's B School is opening up for enrollment tomorrow on Wednesday, February 22nd. You can check that out over at flourishthriveacademy.com/B School 2017. That's flourishthriveacademy.com/B School 2017. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for everything. I'm really looking forward to supporting you in whatever way that I can. And I love coming to you every single week, bringing you this podcast. So thank you so much for listening. Until next time, take care.